sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello everyone, welcome to Simracersworld TV for round 8 of the SRW GT Pro Series, brought to you by Porsche Sport. And we're here at Road Atlanta just days after Petit Le Mans, the big 10-hour event, one of the most chaotic official special events, dare I say. It was quite the journey, the travel, I'd say for me. Hasse Rømer, I'm in the booth alone tonight. No Jack Werrell. I hope he's okay because I haven't heard anything, so I'll hold my own tonight, and I am ready to take you through what I'm at least sure will be a banger of a race, because usually Road Atlanta provides just that. It's a very fast track indeed, with some technical bits. Not the easiest place to overtake, but it's a short track, very flowing, such a delight for the drivers, and also a track where if you have the slightest of lapses in concentration, you could find yourself facing in the wrong way, or the wall even worse, in a very short time indeed. Let's go to some live pictures of the drivers hamming around here, as we are in qualifying by now.
The world we built is slipping through our fingers. We're running.
And there we are, Pimbao for G-Drive Racing. G-Drive back again here, and all but gone at the last round. So nice to see the G-Drive team back competing in what has been a season-long battle against Manatee Racing, both fielding the BMW M8. And speaking of championships and battles and all that stuff, all that good stuff, let's have a look at the points standings coming into this round. And as you can see, Johnny Verhoeven, 545 points. A really solid lead ahead of Joop de Ligt with 460. Martin van Loosenoord, who isn't here tonight because sadly he was rushed to hospital today. From what I hear, he's out again. He's well and good. But of course, us as SRW will be wishing, and is wishing, Martin the best of recoveries, swift recoveries indeed, for Martin van Loosenoord. Mario Yuri 4th, and Sam Bentham, Bram van Putten, Ryan Parkins, Robin DeVille, and Bud Bolen 9th, with Seth Haberup for Simracersworld Esport, 222 points on his name. He's in 10th place in the standings. Oh, Martin, you think the guy in 3rd is Van Røvik? You'd love to see that, wouldn't you? There is, of course, more to the standings as well. So just having a look at the lower echelons quickly. I'm not going to go through the entirety of it, because we do have a qualifying session that we're going to try to pay attention to. It's slipped out of our hands, I feel, at moments. And that's certainly not what we want to have, because this, and especially at this place, look at that, just 2 minutes remaining. And that doesn't indeed give us a whole lot of time to really go through what's happened so far in the session. But Joop de Ligt currently on pole position in front of Johnny Verhoeven. So the Manatee Racing car is looking really strong. Sam Bentham there in the BMW for Ronan Simsport Academy is in 3rd place at the moment. And Pimbao is leading the G-Drive charge in 4th place. Bud Bolen for Meraki Racing in 5th. Then Robin DeVille, Ryan Parkins, Jack Ashton in the Ford GT indeed. And Strasse Porsche Sport very much up here as well, though this is John Tusting, and he's not driving for Strasse Porsche Sport today, that's for sure. And it's not showing that livery for some reason otherwise, and that is a bummer because it did earlier today. Well, that's a nice heads up, Nick. I'll forward that to the scheduling department immediately and see if we can get that fixed. Of course, into the final minute of qualifying. We've got a few drivers on track. Let's get that qualifying graphic on display so we can just have a look here. Johnny Verhoef is coming in, and I think he's just about to cross the line. Actually, what's it going to be? I think that wasn't a legitimate lap set there. No one's really seeming to improve here late days in qualifying. Sam Bentham is on a lap as well. Oh, and I have company in the booth, not by Jack Werrell, but by Edward May. Edward, welcome to. Nice to have you along here on the SRW GT Pro Series and stepping in on on very short notice. Indeed, that's lovely to see. We're at the end of qualifying, and Road Atlanta is probably going to be a festive race indeed, I think. Do you have any experiences with this track, Edward?
Yes, I was just at Road Atlanta. Hello, everybody. Yeah, very short notice. Such short notice that I'm not actually in the iRacing server. I'm working hard to get myself up and running in the meantime. But yes, I've had a little bit of experience. Obviously, the weekend just gone, there was Petit Le Mans. Obviously, not in the GTEs that we have on track currently, but in the GT3. And it's such a technical circuit. The first sector, the famous S's. Then you've got that long straight where you can see plenty of moves being made into the hairpin. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, indeed it is, and I'm just gonna see, this is the end of the session, so without any further ado, I'll do my best to... Oh, actually, we got Marc-Antoine Thibault still running out there. Still... Oh, it's just lovely iRacing switching me to the scenic cam whenever someone goes to the pit and off the track. But Marc-Antoine Thibault, last lap for him here in the Abruzzi Ferrari. Last lap, I'm saying. He's cancelled that session over, and with that we should be having some results to show you in a short matter of time. Results, that is actually grid order, because hey, why not? So as soon as our stuff appears amidst the chaos here, I'll take you through... Oh, actually I won't, because I'll be doing this myself, by the chance that Edward's not exactly...
I'm getting there. I'm getting there, slowly but surely.
But we're going to have the grid order in a moment, and that's going to be hard if it doesn't display on your screen. Anyway, so we do apologize for a bit of pre-broadcast chaos, but that's how it is sometimes. Anyway, there is the grid order with Joop de Ligt on pole position in front of Manity Racing teammate...
Really low turnout again today.
Please be quiet when I'm speaking. Johnny Verhoef is there, but that wasn't you, because that was in iRacing. Anyway, I should have muted that before. Moving on to third place is Sam Bentham for Ronin East Simsport Academy, with Robin DeVille there for Flemish Simsport in fourth, Pim Bauer there in fifth for G-Drive, then Bart Boland for Meraki, Ryan Parkins for Strasse Porsche Sport in the 911 in seventh place, then Jack Ashton, John Barnes for Quantum, and Sepp Hebera in 10th, with Marc-Antoine Thibault and Ewan Marshall rounding up the first 6 rows of cars on the grid tonight. Then John Tusting, Ryan Walker, Paul Gosling, and Martin van Rooijbeek there for Simpact in 16th place, in front of teammate Jordan McClone and Neil Cooper for Fury Simsports in 18th, and today, final grid place. And Edward, you just tell me whenever you're all in and running in the sim.
I am promptly loading up to Road Atlanta, but there was actually a name that you mentioned that I'm quite familiar with, the Fury Simsport name, one of the teams that I actually run with. I actually was running with them at Petit Le Mans, so we're going to be hoping for better things than what happened with our team. Let's say that and leave it there.
Yeah, for sure. let's see here. So an entire lap of formation, if you will, once we get the green lights off. Of course, some of the newer tracks in iRacing don't have this entire lap. You'll note immediately when you see it, because there's just a few corners and then you'll be off. But actually, and I've heard several drivers speaking about this, a lot of drivers feel that it's quite nice actually to have that entire lap to warm up the brakes. And of course, now with the newer tire models in iRacing as well, weaving, actually, would you believe it, all of a sudden seems to be a viable strategy to actually get some heat into the tires there early days. Now, there has been a few issues with some of the liveries, and they were showing just fine earlier in the session. I could try and reload, but it would give us a few moments of just all white cars, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna minimize what you see of it and do it like that. Join pole sitter Joop de Ligt for his formation lap here. And this is the really tricky bits he's exiting right now, so-called the S's, which is most cars is pretty much flat, but even in the GTs I think the first corner might be a small lift, and then that's about it. And then the exciting moment where we go to check out whether that worked or not. And it did. So really nice when you get these moments of liveries not displaying. Hey, Carl Sharkey. Good to have you along. Still make the race. You can still make it. Start from the pit lane. Come on. Ryan Parkins and Jack Ashton side by side there. Jack Ashton, our reigning champion of this series, and Ryan Parkins, the reigning Porsche Sport GP Series champion in the 911 Cup cars. And with that said, we are beginning to come into the final bits and bobs of the laps here. The final chicane. The final run, and a tricky run here over the bridge that used to be very difficult indeed. Safety car peels off, and that means now it's Johnny Verhoeven, Joop de Ligt at the front of affairs, and they've gone early to try and get the run into turn one. Oh, and there's almost contact. There actually is contact at the back there. That was between one of the Quantum BMWs and the car of Carl Sharkey. Indeed, I think. No, that was of course Ryan Parkins, but they've all made it through here. Jack Ashton, very good start for him, gets across and ahead of Bud Boland. And a good deal of passes being made, but seems very clean here through the opening corners. And luckily so, because it's easy to get it wrong. All the way down the midfield, through the bottom of the pack, and everyone's cleanly away, Edwin.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see all these cars managing to get through without too many dramas. Obviously at the back you can see a few cars gaining positions. Jack Ashton, as you mentioned, gaining 2 positions on the opening few corners. He's going to try and hold on to 6th place and see if he can get himself further up the order. Further down, I've noticed as well, Martin Van Rewick in 14th place up to. So is the Fury Simsport driver, Neil Cooper. The Porsche is seeming to do quite well at the moment.
Yeah, indeed, and we've seen the 911 improve over the last few weeks here as they enter the chicane for the first time and all. Sam Bentham looking very racy there against Pimpo, and they make contact, and both of them go around, and this is a very dangerous place indeed. I think Jack Ashton gets caught up in that as well. Oh my word, this is going to be a huge one, I'm afraid. Several cars off at the very final corner of the first lap. That's thrown a big old monkey into the party here. And now they're going to be scrambling for positions here in the midfield as well. And that's one of the sit-back Porsches. Picked up the G-Drive Porsche there in our BMW in turn one. And I'm afraid that was Martin van Reewijk as well. And we've got a lot to catch up on here as well. We're going to have a good look at what happened there before. So Sam Bentham had a moment as he took a spinner with Pimpau. He picked up Jack Ashton and the Meraki car there of Bud Boland as well. And then further down, I'm afraid John Tustin got caught up in all that as well. But that's... Oh, he got caught up there in turn one. He's the BMW there on the inside, as well as several other drivers. That was a very, very, very hectic finale to the first lap. And just as I've been saying, oh, they all got through it. They all got cleanly away. That wasn't exactly to be. But Marc-Antoine Thibault here, he's made it from 11th place up to 6th place already. There will be big gainers as well here. Ryan Parkins up into 5th place already, Edward.
Yeah, and because the commentators definitely struck there. I've only joined in for, say, about 10 minutes and was talking about how good Martin van Rooyen was doing. He's immediately got caught up in the incidents at the end of, at the beginning actually, of the second lap in anger, and before him, he thinks he's out of the race. He's sitting in the pit lane for me, and I can't see him getting that repaired and moving on from here.
That's going to be a tough one to come back from. Such an early incident there. Manatee Racing and race leader Joop de Leek. Of course, just imagine how good it would look if both of the cars were painted in the correct paint job. But at least Johnny Verhoeven seems to have had the spec maps on his car today. They seem to work a little bit on and off. But they work today, and it looks beautiful indeed. 3rd place here now for Robin de Ville. And speaking of pretty machines, that Flemish Simsports car is a jewel. That's at least in my opinion. Edward, what is your thoughts on the cars we're seeing today?
Oh, I obviously don't have the paint pack downloaded because again I was called in at so I'm running off of what I can see on Trading Paints.
And that's probably not going to be too much, to be fair. So we will just leave the aesthetic discussions alone for tonight, and we'll go on with the racing here. Seb Hebera has gained position as well, and he's now up into P8 while putting on pressure. Rear end there up. John Barnes seems to just miss the apex there, turn 1. Something that's really easy to do there. And turn 3 that they're coming up to now. The crest and the blind entrance makes it so easy to overshoot. And something we see quite often as well here. Hebera down through the S's and up to the left-hander at turn 5, which is certainly a tricky one, especially the exit as well. As you're going uphill, the car immediately wants to break away from you if you're not careful on the throttle there. Fast-paced turn 6 with the banking as well, and to the hairpin at turn 7, slowest point of the track, and then on to the big long back straight down towards the chicane.
Yeah, it's really tricky to get right, especially in a car that doesn't have anti-lock brakes. You want to be getting everything inch perfect. All these drivers will obviously have pedals with load cells in, but if you own iRacing and you don't, like myself, have load cells, you're going to be in for a world of pain. And I think all of these drivers, I believe, have decent enough equipment, so we shouldn't be seeing too many locking up moments, but it's all about being confident enough with the car, knowing that it's going to stop in time, especially, as you mentioned, for turn 7.
Yeah, indeed, Edward, and the whole, what we're seeing, just gonna leave that discussion alone for a moment, because 3 cars are within half a second here into turn 1. That's John Barnes, Seb Hebera, and Ewan Marshall, also doing very well in the Team 11 Porsche 911. Absolutely flying along here. But mentioning upon the load cell brakes there, it is actually one of the few pieces of kit and equipment in sim racing that's widely acknowledged to at least, if not gain you some actual pace on track, and at least a whole lot of consistency, and especially as you mentioned, check that, Edward, that's in cars without ABS, and that's Jordan McClone sending it around the outside in turn 6 there on Ryan Walker ahead in the Nomad Ferrari. Let's have a look. Edward, what do you see?
Obviously, I haven't got everything quite low yet, so I can't quite see the replay, but it's just brilliant manoeuvre. Just on the brakes, the confidence he has in his car to stop it, send it all the way around the outside. There's a bit of a defence going on, and there's enough defence there, and it was just all she got really before, not too much threat as well at the start of the race. You don't want to be too much, so it was more of a concession of the position, I think, from Ryan.
And yeah, I think you're right there, and back up with Seb Hebera, Ewan Marshall, and the rest of the top runners there, having been spread out by the lap 1 incident there a little bit. But further down, still very close indeed. This 3-way scrap is going absolutely nowhere. And they're being joined up by John Tosting. And it'll be interesting to see if Tosting can pull off anything. That Quantum Racing BMW looks very good as well. So shame we can't see it. Actually can. There should at least be chances for it. And I just noticed that it's showing John Tusting as racing for Porsche Sports. That is certainly not the case. We'll get that fixed immediately. Still looking at this now four-way scrap as Jordan McLone's beginning to ever so slightly take off there. Ryan Walker still in behind. He's defending it from Neil Cooper. And the 911s are looking more and more racy. And that is, of course, very nice to see indeed. And that should be in for Tusting as well now, showing the correct team. That's much better. Let's see here, but Boland's been in the pits. I think that's been for repairs as well here. Let's see here, Martin van Rooijek's accident there. That was just him coming back on the track. Pimbau, big trouble for him as well. Here it comes, Martin van Rooijek, the Simpac driver, getting loose there into turn one, losing the rear end, clipping the wall. And Pimbau, the unlucky receiver of a more than a little love tap, I want to say there, but nonetheless, anything but lucky here. Johnny Verhoeven having taken the lead from his teammate Joop de Ligt, but the Manatee Racing cars, just how hard will they be battling each other? Surely, Edward, they want to keep some sort of margin between them, won't they?
Don't really want to be coming together, especially with your teammates, so they might try and work together, potentially with a bit of slipstream to see if they can catch up to the cars in front, manage to manage that pace, manage the gap. It's always easier when you have teammates on track with you, but then sometimes as well, with teammates you can have a bit of an inter-team rivalry. Sometimes the egos can clash heads, and it's all going to be a map time, I think, before or when we get to that later phase of the race. Obviously it's a 1 hour and 30-minute race. I think with the dying embers, that should spice up good and proper.
And that's what we've seen before as well. Things getting, I don't want to say too tactical, but at least with more emphasis on tactics and strategy early on in the race. And then as soon as we get in towards the final bits and bobs of the race, all those things are happily thrown to the side. We could have some good old proper racing indeed. I'm a little silent right now. It's because I'm trying to update the paint pack, so I, with one swift blow, will be able to make us see all the right liveries on the cars, because it is being, let's just say, a slight pin in my butt cheek at the moment that we're not seeing the right liveries. And even though it's not nice having a look at a white car or two for a moment or two, that's exactly what we're gonna do, just to see if we're gonna get the right stuff coming in this time around, because I certainly hope it. We're on board with Johnny Verhoeven. That still looks like Manatee Racing colors to me. He's flying along here, taking liberties with the curves, Edward, there.
Certainly is, and he's using every bit of the track and a little bit more, I think. But it's good to see that he's managing to get everything just about within the lines, and I don't know what the instant limit is for this race. I'm sure you can tell me.
Indeed, back up. Yes, and now they're showing correct liveries here. Neil Cooper. Let's see John Tusting. Look at that quantum BMW. Isn't that beautiful? That was certainly worth something. And look at that up ahead. That's Neil Cooper and Ryan Walker. They're side by side now onto the back straight. That was a late move. Dangerous place in the hairpin, but it is one place where you can actually make it. Still side by side, the pace of the Ferrari in the straight line. A little bit higher though. Look at John Tusting coming to join the party in the BMW. Are they going to make it 3 wide into the... That's certainly not going to make out. And Tusting just playing it along there. And I think that's Ryan Walker gaining the position from Neil Cooper. John Tusting still wanting to play there on the inside, on the exit. And a bit of argy-bargy almost going along here. Still a good run, I think, for the BMW, for Quantum Racing and John Tusting, but he doesn't quite make it along up until turn one. A very nice battle heating up here. Seb Hebero, meanwhile, in the SRW Esports machine, is still ahead of Ewan Marshall by around half a second. And then the two leaders very close, but this four-way scrap certainly where the action's at the moment.
certainly is. Oh, sorry about that. If you heard that buzz in the background, I think one of my housemates has just ordered in their McDonald's, so apologies for that. I'll make sure to yell at them afterwards. But we've got a brilliant fight here. Sam Bentham's going to be looking to the inside. The Ronin Simsport Academy driver is doing a brilliant job. Got that manoeuvre done at turn 6 and now far ahead in turn 7. But his car is looking certainly worse for wear now, Sam.
Yeah, Sam Bentham did take a heavy hit there early days, and that was such a bad piece of luck for him. Rotten luck, dare I say, because he was in such a good position there after a really good qualifying session, and now with a dent like that to break the air, that's going to affect his top speed quite seriously. Not something you'd want to have here at Road Atlanta. I imagine a lot of these drivers to be very sharp and dialed in on this track. That is, of course, if they've done the Petit Le Mans. Good point there for Martin van Rooijbeek, TSR Martin in chat, who did the race as well. And I know that because he's a teammate of mine for Simpact Racing. But I haven't made the move to the newly introduced Dallara LMP2 machine and running in that car. And that's certainly a different car to handle than these GTs. More downforce, thus more grip in the fast sections, but also a car that's a little more twitchy on the curbs and such here. 3 BMWs behind a Ferrari, and look at that now, Neil Cooper is running away with it. And I think actually Neil Cooper might have gotten past. Just gonna have to hit, there's gonna be into the final corner. Oh, that was a good piece of respect from both of them. Then Ryan Walker just getting ahead, but the outside into turn 1, that's no place to be, yet he manages to make it stick. That's absolutely impressive there from the Ferrari, but I want to see where Neil Cooper gets back ahead. It's going to be a bit of a long replay, but back ahead he certainly did get. I think it's here. We need to look no further there. A bit of a poor exit for the Ferrari, and that gives an easy run. Tries to shield off the inside, but there's no use, and he's ahead before the corner. So an easy one for Neil Cooper there. He'll be happy for that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've actually just noticed as well that Ryan Walker did concede that position again like he did earlier in race, and has actually lost out again to John Barnes. The Quantum Racing car's gotten ahead of him, so I don't know what happened here. We're going to follow a replay now. It's the downhill braking into the chicane, so it seems again another bad exit at the start through turn 7 for Ryan, and he just again has to concede the position. Doesn't fight too much because he's playing it smart. He knows that there's just over an hour to go in this race, and yeah, he's had a compromised line on the inside. You can see him locking up the brakes and having just to basically give it in
to Sam Bentham, and now the other Quantum BMW is coming past as well. So Ryan Walker really suffering. We don't see any damage here on the Ferrari, but look at that here. A big old lock up after turn 6 and into the hairpin at turn 7. And it's an easy place to lock up going up the hill there, but certainly doesn't aid his run. And that lost him 2 additional positions. Ryan Walker is down into 13th place here. Up ahead, Jennifer Hope leaving. Well, he's not really leaving Hope the league for much because they're quite close to one another, the 2 teammates. But wouldn't be surprised to see them sharing duties of breaking the wind ahead and going the furthest possible on a tank of fuel. We're expecting 2 stops, one for a half hour of running, so just about. Mind you, we're running 60% fuel capacity for these cars. Indeed, we're having cars exiting here, but Boland and Pimbao as well, I believe. Or Pimbao still in the pits. It doesn't necessarily look like he's coming back anytime soon. That's a big shame indeed. Hebera actually having caught up to Marc-Antoine Thibault in the Abruzzi Ferrari.
Yeah, you can see the Abruzzi Ferrari now, just at the head of this train. Obviously he's got Sebastian Herbera behind. Ewan Marshall's lurking in the distance as well. So at the moment the gaps aren't close enough to be too threatening, but they're just filling his mirrors, letting Marc-Antoine know that they are there, and obviously going to be trying to get that position. A great run he's getting through the S's, and he's going to be seeing if he can catch up. He's catching BMW up in front, and he comes over the crest here. might be close enough to get into the slipstream and potentially make a move through turn 6 and 7.
Very well could be, but I think the BMW's grunt on the straight line makes it imperative for the Porsche just to be a little closer or to get a very good run, but he can hear him. We've seen it before from the hairpin, but the BMW well in the slipstream of the Ferrari in front, and that, of course, really gives it a bit of extra pace. And you can just see how Ewan Marshall is losing ground. The Porsche 911 known for a little slower on top speed, but very strong through the twisty bits, so to say. Lap times for the leading cars, by the way, in the 115s, the mid 115s, so a strong pace as well. About half a second up on Robin DeVille. Jack Ashton there for Fort Silla. He's done brilliantly to survive the chaos of lap 1, even though he had a bit of RG barging there already on the start-finish line just after the green flag. He's now sending it through turn 3 and hammering along 3 seconds behind Robin DeVille. That's by no means over there. Ryan Parkins is chasing him down. And then the aforementioned battle with Marc-Antoine Thibault, Seb Hebra, and Ewan Marshall as they're coming along here. And then still behind as well. I'm sorry, Edward, go on.
I was just going to say that was certainly the battle to watch, all those 3 cars fighting for that same piece of track, and it does seem just Ewan Marshall that just seems to have the pace out of that pack. It seems that Ewan Marshall being in the back, obviously you can get the slipstream off of both cars, and you can see him now right behind Sebastian Herberer, the BMW Simracersworld Esports. But he's just not getting the grunt out of the corner thanks to that BMW just being so quick in a straight line, getting the slipstream. He's not able to just to get close enough to make a threat under the brakes. You can see him having a look, thinks better of it though, and dips back inside. Close though, I heard you. That's exactly what I was thinking. Just a little bit too close for comfort there, and as a result, he has to check up massively and loses out more time.
Yeah, he missed the apex because the apex of that left-hander in the chicane is quite a bit away over the curb, and you can cut quite a bit of the curb as well before gaining an off-track incident. So that's certainly gonna cost him. He could have been so close here. You can see the Porsche being strong there, and indeed Jordan McClone as well now coming up to join this already 3-way scrap. McClone in 9th place at the moment as well. Oh Lord, Martin. And by the way, let me just take this chance as the race now 20 minutes in, we have settled down. We're coming in towards the first round of pit stops. A very warm welcome to everyone watching along on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our Twitch page here for SRW TV. And I hope you're enjoying the show. We've certainly seen some tightly packed action there, early days, and still a couple of hot spots, if you will. A couple of hot battles on track taking part at the moment here. This one for 6th, 7th, and 8th place at the moment. Here we see Seb Hebera getting a very good run through the opening bit of the chicane. But this time around, though, I think Ewan Marshall might be in with a shout.
Yeah, he is. He's closer than he's ever been, but these 2 corners kind of aren't really ones you can make manoeuvres. Possibly if he gets the better run out of turn 1 and can put his nose down the inside up at turn 3, he could be in for a shot. You can see that he doesn't get the run. The Porsche doesn't seem to be too strong there. Then he gets onto the S's where he is strong, but you can't really go too wide down here without having a horrible, horrible accident.
No, this is the one place on this track where it's, I want to say, literally impossible to overtake unless someone literally cedes the position to you. And what you can do, however, is get close from the S's. If you can then get the run from turn 5 up towards this section of the track, that's a place where you can actually set something up. It seems to be difficult. And Seb Hebera doing a sterling job at the moment of keeping Ewan Marshall behind. And at the same time, I want to say Marc-Antoine Thibault doing just the same up ahead. Jordan McClone is closing in here as John Tusting and John Barnes, 2 Johns in 2 very similar cars. So they're going along at a similar pace as well at the moment. But unfortunately, a little bit of way back here, they are chasing Neil Cooper, who went ahead of these 2 cars early in the race. He's found some good pace for himself as he's chasing the other Porsche of Jordan McClone. I want to say this Fury Sim Sports livery is something Jack and I have spoken about before, and actually I spoke with Jack just a moment ago. Seems his PC has died, so if anything, that's a pretty good reason he can't be here to commentate. that's also a pretty sour experience to have. I've tried it before, and it sucks. So F's out for Jack's PC, and I hope he'll be able to figure something out soon.
It's very funny to mention that because actually one of my teammates, Ryan Oliver, has had his PC die on him. He was due to race with me this weekend, but had his PC just completely go kaput on him. Apparently his motherboard just fried itself. So unfortunate for him. Hopefully the fix for Jack is a lot easier than just a cooked motherboard, and he can be with us in 2 weeks' time for the next round. But still, maybe if he keeps having issues, I'll be here to commentate on yet more exciting racing, because we can see here Marc-Antoine is looking behind him and seeing himself getting the mirrors filled with Sebastian Herber's big Beamer.
The big old boat, the mate, the big one indeed. Lots of memes have been floating around the lovely interwebs for a long time, and seems to be no limit to how big this BMW can actually grow. And it just keeps getting better indeed. But it's been the dominant car of this series so far. Of course, I think it's been a little more, at least it seemed a little more balanced after this, the beginning of the last season with the BOP update, and quite a substantial update of the GT cars in general as well, with an aerodynamic overhauling and a new tire model to go with that as well. So that's made it a little more interesting and a little less all-conquering in terms of BMW. And no longer are we seeing 5-6 BMWs at the head of the field. Now it's, however, just 3. But it also goes to show that the Manatee cars here up ahead have been so strong all season, and they're soldiering on. Johnny Verhoeven leading Joop de Ligt, and seems to be running on rails for him at the moment. Look at this, what's happened to Neil Cooper? Well, he was chasing McClone. Well, Thibaut is there, and they're still there, but someone's disappeared. That's Ewan Marshall. He's into the pits.
I think that could be a scheduled pit stop. So what he's doing is he knows that he's getting caught up in traffic. I think he's maybe trying to go through an undercut maneuver. He was the quicker, as I mentioned. I think the quicker driver out of that 3-car train at the back. He's not been able to get ahead, so he's decided now's the time. I'm going to put the fuel in the car. Maybe take a potentially short stop. But oh my word, we've just seen an incident with Ryan Walker. He's messed up just coming over the crest. Car's just overloaded. I think a bit of compression on the suspension, sending him all the way around. Unfortunately for Ryan, he was running quite well in this race, and I think maybe towed down to the pits, has he? I don't quite know.
Ryan Walker is actually still running. He might have taken a fast repair. I don't think that accident was right away. I think that's a few minutes ago by now. So just getting the replay in there. But he's still running. Oh, that damage is very much still there. So no fast repair for him as he cuts the course there after turn 3, seeking the escape road that has saved many lives, I think, in its existence there. Marc-Antoine Thibaut still fighting for P6 with Sepp Hepera as they're leaving behind. Well, they were leaving behind of course, Ewan Marshall, who did that early pit stop. But you know what? At 5 minutes, 6 minutes ahead of that half-hour mark when we usually see it, it's not like they're having heavy traffic as such. But of course, if he feels like he can get out with a heavier car and still push on at a better pace, he'll be in a good position. But that's a tough job to pull off.
Well, so you got to bear in mind that by pitting in earlier, he still has probably a few more litres in reserve than the other drivers that will pit later will have. So not only is he going to be pitting in earlier, but he's also going to be spending less time stationary, taking in fuel. So the other drivers that were in front of him will come in for their stops. He might find himself up a couple of positions, maybe even more, depending on what his pace is like. Now he's in clear air, but we can see, squeezing between the two teammates. Hey, careful there, son. You don't want to be doing any of that. And it's Johnny Verhoeven just losing out position. You have to just really sending it. They're still too wide though through the final corner. We have a squeeze. But I think they've just started to slot in. No, they're not. They're trying to fight up. Still fighting for position.
They're actually really doing it, and they're proving us wrong big time here. Because Joop de Ligt and Johnny Verhoeven, they've been too wide for half a lap more or less here into turn 3, and they finally make it more or less single file, except for a short moment there on the start finish straight down through the S's. Still closer than close now with de Ligt in the lead and up ahead of his teammate. And that might be turning into a battle getting quite a lot hotter than I was really expecting it to. Meanwhile, of course, still a race going on here with Thibaut Heberer and Jordan McClone now in the Simpac Porsche, who's coming up from behind there. And the rainbow car, as it's been called there and thereabouts, it's known as a divider of waters. I think it's a beautiful machine, but that's just me there. They're certainly going for spicing up the race at the head of affairs here, as Jennifer Hof is having a big old look into the chicane as well. That's where that last battle started off. And Edward, are you expecting to see some kind of multi-21 situation here?
I mean, from what we've been seeing earlier, I certainly don't think so. We've seen them battling for nearly half of a lap as they went into the chicane. I'm very certain they were probably battling before that, and they're going to continue battling until the end of this race because they know they're in front. They've got a healthy gap behind as well. I think the gap is around about 9 seconds to Robin de Ville further behind the Flemish Simsport car. Feeling a little bit lonely, I think, actually, because he's kind of in his own little bubble, is Robin behind. So maybe these two drivers will provide a bit more spice for us and keep fighting. This is brilliant.
Absolutely, indeed. Here, check in with the battle there for 6th place as well. Mind you, they've got around 5.5 seconds from Marc-Antoine Thibaut up to Ryan Parkins up ahead at the moment. But that's something actually a really good point as well. I mentioned earlier in chat as well that Joop de Ligt, the car was behind before of the two Manatee machines. Well, whoever was behind for a long time in the beginning would be saving a lot of fuel. So there might be reason to the madness. But of course, if you want to make a controlled handover of first position to equalize the amounts of fuel saved, well, that's certainly not the way to do it. However, Thibaut Heberer and McClone still just about close enough, but are still none of them really within striking distance.
Yeah, not quite, but you can see now that I think officially Jordan McClone has formed up into this battle now. You can see he's only half a second back from Heberer, who himself is about half a second back from Thibaut. So, yeah, I think we can certainly safely say that Jordan McClone has joined this battle for 6th place. He's in fighting the steering wheel on board, just getting a good run up through the corner. But he doesn't seem to be strong where it counts on the straights, where you can make a manoeuvre into, well, where we've seen most of the manoeuvres made into the chicane.
That is a big thing because having straight line speed doesn't really take any skill to take advantage of. While having a car that's strong through the corners, that still takes all the setting up and it's a lot more risky. And it makes it harder to overtake. Especially in a track like this, we are seeing BMWs and the Ferrari as well. As Marc-Antoine Thibaut is having not the hardest of times defending his position. But however, I'm also thinking that Sepp Heberer could be pretty happy in just staying behind Thibaut if their pace is similar. And then just try and save as much fuel as possible. And we could see McClone go for the very same strategy at least. Because if they don't battle too hard between one another here, they're not going to really be losing time overall. And that's a good way to go, I guess. Because if you really start to fight, you're just going to have more cars joining in from behind. And whoever pitted before is going to have a big advantage as well.
Yeah. In his race, I think sooner or later we might start seeing drivers fight for track positions when they're starting to get towards the pit phase. They obviously want to come into the pits in front. I don't know how long we expect these drivers to go on their 60% tank fuel, but we can see now that this is Joop de Ligt going down to the inside now.
Oh, this
still
is the
fighting off Johnny Verhoef. Or is this
the
the situation now, or is this a replay?
This is the replay from before. I thought they had another battle out there, a deja vu of sorts, but still the same old battle that we already saw before. Doesn't make it worse viewing there because cars going side by side for so long, and less than a 1/10 of a second separating the two leaders on lap time, so they are very close indeed. Looking at these three, which is the hot battle. Oh, Ryan Parkins coming into the pit lane here. We are also past the 30 minutes gone here of this race, and more cars breaking off and into the pit lane here with Sepp Heberer and Jordan McClone coming in. So Marc-Antoine Thibault staying out, Jack Ashton as well. A couple of cars trying to come in here early and looking to gain something out of it, at least.
Yeah, definitely. It's battle in the pit lane now. We're going to keep, I think, quite a few eyes on this to see who's going to be coming out in front. Will Rømer be able to get the jump on the Canadian driver Marc-Antoine Thibault, or will it be the wild card, do you reckon, of McLaren coming through?
Well, that's going to be a very good question. I think that is Ryan Parkinson. Here comes McLaren. Oh, that's going to be close. Rømer just in front. And they're still going to be close indeed, but Thibault hasn't yet to pit, so we're going to see with the other ones when they get around to it. And for just how long Thibault's going to stay out there, well, I reckon he's going to be running as long as humanly possible on a light car to try and put in a couple of fast laps there to distance himself from the cars behind. And let's see, that looks like a pit stop to me. And this is, by the way, as you can see here, for Marc-Antoine Thibault, he comes in. This is a very difficult pit entry, and it's lightly, or like it's so easy. Lightly said, it's so easy to get it wrong. It's so easy to get a penalty as well if you're coming in the speed limit. It's 70 kilometers an hour, so not one of the slowest tracks, but certainly not one of the fastest pit lanes either there. And into the pits goes Marc-Antoine Thibault, and let's see, here comes McLaren, Rømer in front. And they are down towards the chicane, so I think it might just be tight. We're not going to see any kind of tire changes, of course, as the tires are more than able to run for an hour and a half. That said, these conditions, daylight and so on, well, maybe not an actual track conditions. Well, temperature 22 degrees. I'm going to take that back. That is going to work here. Thibault is out the pits, and he is ahead of Seb Rømer, and by a comfortable margin as well here. John Tusting in the pits now. But actually it's stretched out just a little bit actually over the pit round here, Edward.
Yeah, I think it was just about that pit entry. I was watching Thibault and I thought he was maybe just cutting a bit fine with the pit line, but he managed to get it done just about perfectly. And yeah, Ewan Marshall, by taking that earlier pit stop, didn't put as much fuel in the tank, came out ahead of all of the cars in front of him. He was really only in front, actually behind, Thibault and Rømer, and that was a masterstroke of tactical genius. And now he's going to be right up behind. I think who's in front of him is that Ryan Parkins is in front of him there. So there's a BMW in the mix in between them, a back marker. I'm not sure who that is. I think, by the looks of things, that's the 20. Is that the 26 car of Boland?
That is the Meraki car of the Manxman, Bud Boland indeed, who's been running very, very nicely indeed this season. But poor luck for him today. Let's put him out of contention. He's just running around to see whatever scraps can be picked up. And indeed, nice and grippy track. And it's also going to be much less hard on the rubbers. And any kind of hotter temperatures would serve him. Because even an hour, if it's really hot here at Rotterdam, 1 hour of racing on a set of tires can be a little bit of a stretch. It's possible to do it, but they will be worn by the end here. But 22 degrees, and I am very confident the drivers will have ample amounts of grip all the way through here, unless they, of course, kill the test completely. Look at that, Ewan Marshall with an absolute bump there on the inside of his chicane. That looked like something from a 1990s rap video, Edward.
That was absolutely brilliant. A bit of hydraulics there in the suspension. I don't think they'd be too pleased with that, and that has allowed Thibault to catch right up behind him. You can see the Ferrari always going down to the inside. Very late daring manoeuvre, always locked up. Oh, I thought there was going to be contact. Oh, there is contact, and he sent around Thibault. Oh, I think there was just a bit too much squeezing. Both fighting for the same piece of track. It looked a slight bit of netcode, but that has resulted in the Canadian driver losing out massively.
Yeah, indeed, that very much looked like a horrible and horrible netcode indeed. I think that was in the scale of bad things indeed. And Marc-Antoine Thibault will not be happy about that, but make no mistake, Ewan Marshall took every opportunity to try and give him the space required there. So that looked like something, because it looked like they had 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters between them, which sort of racing is ample distance usually, but the net codes, well, they happen, and nobody likes them. And it's always a shame to see someone's hopes being put out by it. But of course, Marc-Antoine Thibault will not have picked up any damage from that incident. Or hopefully that doesn't look that way.
I'm sure he'll be happy if you told him that, but it's going to be small consolation because he has lost out absolutely heaps of positions. He's now found himself all the way behind Jordan and Herbert and, of course, Ewan Marshall. So it's unfortunate to see, as you mentioned, and the fact that he has no damage might be some small consolation, but small consolation it certainly is.
A small consolation, but he's got plenty of time, almost an hour of racing to make time back up. Another pit stop round. And his talents and the pace he's shown already today, I think it will be within his limits to regain a few of those positions lost. Ryan Parkins there, as you can hear him lifting in the first part of the S's. This is what I expected him as these. Oh, and the car sliding there through turn 5. And Ryan Parkins controlling it very well indeed. Through the bank turn 6. Gonna take as much of the curb as possible. Same here while keeping the car steady on exit. Does that well as well. And look at that now. Seb Hebra on the tail of Ewan Marshall within a second and half a second off of Seb Hebra here. It's now Jordan McClone.
So as we were on board with Ryan Parkins there, if you're anything like me, Hasse, I'm sure you were appreciating just the naturally aspirated roar of this Porsche 911 engine. It's a beautiful sound, isn't it?
It's one of the best sounds in, well, cars in general. I think in motor racing, certainly the scream of the flat 6 engine there, the 4-liter flat 6 engine of the 911 RSR is certainly one of the best sounding. A little more character than the grunt of the V8s there of Sam Bentham, who goes ahead of Neil Cooper in the battle for, what is that, 12th place? No?
I think that was 10th place. I think that was Sam Bentham going through to take 10th place from Neil Cooper.
Indeed, my timing screen having been pushed, and I could have just looked at the graphics. One way to make a fool of yourself. Indeed, here's Sam Bentham, indeed in 10th position.
Nothing you could do can make a fool of yourself, Hasse. You're lovely.
And by the way, now that we're in the department of laughs and having a laugh, check out the onboard view from Jordan McClone, the Murray Walkers around, and the quote, to finish first.
I love that.
First you must finish. And that is very true indeed.
I love little details like that people put on their liveries. Jordan, I'm taking my virtual hat off to you, sir, because little nods like that are what make racing. You see plenty of real racing drivers do little things like that. So I think I remember seeing, I think at one point there was a bobblehead on someone's car. I can't remember how long ago it was, but little nods like that, what makes it all worthwhile when you're commentating on racing and you just can pick up little things like that.
Yeah, indeed. It's actually Martin van Roobeck who've designed the liveries and the Easter eggs as well. CSR Martin, who's with us in chat as well at the moment. Jordan McClone absolutely sending it on the exit there of turn 5. And Ewan Marshall still doing well to keep Seb Hebera at bay. Mind you, Seb Hebera has been very patient today. It seems he's not in a rush, he's not in a hurry at all. Just want that position at some point of the race. He is going to come flying along. Trying to take it here is Ryan Parkins. And look at the pace of Bart Boland. He might be laps behind. And a number of laps, I'm afraid he's something close to 9 laps behind the field at the moment, Bart Boland. But certainly driving away from the cars on track that are behind him. And that is, of course, the battle that we just saw moments ago. And he's actually gaining on Ryan Parkins as well.
Yeah, lovely Meraki livery there on Bob Boland. But I've managed to get, I think, most of the paint sorted for me at least. So it's good to see. And yeah, it's a shame for Bod. Seems like he's got good pace from what I've seen of him. He just got caught up in that, as you mentioned, unfortunate opening few lap incidents. And it just shows that it's good to see the perseverance. I think, is the main. The perseverance from these drivers like Bob Boland, and I think Pim as well. Pim Bao is, I think, all the way down in 17th.
But
I
Pinbao,
think
I'm
he's out
afraid
on track, potentially.
He's off track. He's out of the race at this point, I'm afraid. But there will also be points to be picked up for just finishing the event here, and that will be, or could be, points that end up being important for Bud Boland, who's well off in the overall championship standings, and as such, I don't think he can really afford to throw in the towel. I think he'll be feeling that way as well. But it is indeed nice to see drivers just fighting through it. But that now, the gap between Robin DeVille and Jack Ashton still just 3.8 seconds, as Sepp Hebera now really close to the rear end of Ewan Marshall here ahead. They're coming into the final corner, through the final corner, onto the start-finish straight here. He's having a look, but he's not close enough to really send it into turn one. And we've been seeing some of the 911 struggling a little bit with straight line pace, but that doesn't seem to be the case for Ewan Marshall, really.
No, Ewan Marshall, I think that he's gotten ahead. He doesn't have the aero push that you can get in these GTEs, and is able just to get better drive throughout that crucial 7th corner. That sort of, it's almost like a hairpin, like 90-degree right quickly following turn 6. He seems to get it nice and hooked up and then just blitz his car down the straightaway, and Hebera hasn't really got an answer to it.
That's very true indeed here. We're looking at Sam Bentham, who I think has taken his quick repair. The car certainly doesn't look as bent as it was earlier on here. No puns intended on his name. That's something we've done quite a lot, check it out. And Chess is known to do it from time to time, to say the least. But it just dawned upon me that I could have played it had I just realized a little sooner. Anyway, Ewan Marshall is still doing well to keep his nemesis, let me say. Sepp Hebera has been on his tail for the entirety of the race so far, as we are just seconds away from the halfway marker at 45 minutes. Sepp Hebera in the 42 car, and fans of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy will make a lot of sense of this driver's number indeed. Isn't it?
Certainly will.
Yeah, it's the meaning. It's the meaning of everything.
So I wonder if he's got like a nice towel as well in his car, because you always need a towel. It's one of your most important items to take with you while hitchhiking.
Indeed. What else would you do when you get wet? And speak from personal experience, I've been getting wet on a few occasions while sim racing. Well, the whole thing with having a big screen right in front of you, and something that is, I think, one of the most physically active things you can do on a computer, sim racing. I mean, if someone can come up with something that is more, I mean, of course, Half-Life Alyx, VR, on a big mat that moves around, and you can probably break more of a sweat anyways, but I think few things get as intense as when the heat is really on in sim racing. And speaking of the heat being on, Ewan Marshall now really under pressure here into turn 1 yet again, with just about enough of a gap there into turn 1 and up into 3, down through the S's. But he seems to keep Hebera behind him yet again. Welcome, Chaz. The wizard is here. The Wizard of Chaz. The star. Back from Germany in the ring. Oh, McClone, that seemed to be a little twitch for me there. Oh, and we've had a problem here for Marc-Antoine Thibault. Oh, is that the same problem? You know what, Edward, usually we have more situations of interest or of calamity or of whatever you want to call it than this, and I'm just used to see when I see something pop up on the event viewer, or this isn't necessarily popping up, but it is there, I just keep on thinking, well, something has happened. And
yeah, it's drivers seem to have gotten into their own little rhythms at the moment. So at the halfway point, you wouldn't expect too many drivers to make daring manoeuvres at risk of obviously what we saw happen to Marc-Antoine Thibault earlier. And I think they've had a bit of a realization. They've seen all the action that happened at the start, and they've thought, right, guys, let's just all calm down for a bit. Let's just get through in the last 50 minutes. Then we can all lose our heads, chuck our brains out the window, and just go full on nuts to the wall.
I think once we've seen that final pit stop at around the 1 hour mark. It's when we'll see the gloves come off, so to say. Or maybe gloves coming on is a better term to use in sim racing, because if you take your gloves off, that's certainly not going to make you any faster at all. If you have a proper wheel, that is. On a G29 like mine, man, doesn't matter too much. Unless you get sweaty.
Same as me then, Hasse.
Yes, the wheel of champions.
We're G29 buddies. We're champions and also pedals of champions. I've got my lovely G29 pedals sitting there and they've served me faithful till now. I won't let anyone say a bad word about them.
Well, I've been through 3 sets of Logitech pedals in my time. A set of G27s that died, and then a set of G29s or 2 that seemed to die as well. But they have a very particular problem when you have to clean the pedals, the inside, that you have to be really careful not snapping the wiring when putting them back together. And I think that's what happened to me on a couple of occasions. It's not the best design maybe for actually maintaining it, but doesn't really have that much to do with the actual build quality of the pedals either. And at the price, it's hard to find something that'll gain the same amount of bang for your buck. Equipment wise, I got myself a very cheap pair of second-hand Fanatec CSR Elite. So it's an old set of pedals, but they're still holding up. And I got them for the equivalent of, I think, 35 pounds. And they are load cell equipped, so I'm a happy man with that.
Got a right value on that, and there's something I've just noticed on my time screens is that I think Sam Bentham could be in a bit of a fight here. 10th place, he is indeed, and he's getting in a fight with the Canadian driver Antoine Thibault.
Yeah, he very much is. Sam Bentham here on the straight has a big run of overspeed coming into the chicane, and I think that's going to be the move here. We're going to check to the outside. No! Sam Bentham, he clips the grass there on the inside, and somehow, just somehow, he keeps that car in control in the end. And I don't even have a replay to show you, because it didn't recognize that as dramatic enough for us to see again, but that was a very, very good catch from Sam Bentham. That's losing completely, giving it the send. Marc-Antoine Thibault will be heavy. A calamity, Martin.
I was just about to say, if we could see Marc-Antoine's face cam, you would have seen his eyes go the size of dinner plates, I think, as soon as he saw Sam Bentham send his car down the inside. You can hear, obviously, in the car, if the car next to you locks up their brakes with the new sound engine that iRacing have put in. And, well, Marc-Antoine is going to be thanking his lucky stars that he was able to get through at least that manoeuvre through the chicane unscathed.
Yeah, indeed. I think Sam Bentham, though, will be coming back at him, and rather quickly, because he did seem to be on quite the pace before he was gaining on the Canadian. Into the chicane here, Jordan McGlone making short work of it, using every inch of tarmac there on the exit as well. Up here with Ewan Marshall and the Wang Cam, as we used to call it over at Half the Race Gone. And they're coming through there into turn 3, and we've seen very few people missing that all-important apex at turn 3. That goes to say a bit about the level of competition. And the top drivers in this series are, most of them at least, have I ratings of 5, 6, 7,000, which also says quite a bit. And they're making otherwise very competent, fast drivers look relatively average. And I think I dare say, Edward, if you had drivers like you and I don't know about, I shouldn't make you sound worse than you are. I don't know. I haven't raced you, but I know for myself at least that I would be made to look slow in this series. So
I was feeling quite happy about my 2.3 KI rating, but maybe I should be a bit more upset about that now, considering some of these guys are, as you mentioned, in the 5 and 7Ks. It's certainly a strong field brought out by the SRW GT Pro Series, and it's brilliant to see drivers like Johnny Veyhoff and obviously Joop de Leek up at the front of the field, and I think that gap at the front has started to eke out a little bit. I think they've finally started to settle down, Hasse.
Yeah, that gap from Jennifer Hof, that is to Robin DeVille in third, the Flemish Simsport car that we're watching at the moment, up to around 20 seconds. And Jack Ashton, though, he's gained 0.8 of a second since last we checked in on them, and that's about 15 minutes ago, so it's not that he's catching quickly. The important thing for Jack Ashton is, though, he is catching. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do in the Ford GT over the course of the next round of pit stops. Let me just take a moment here to thank our sponsors, of course, Porsche Sport, but also Dynamics, Abruzzi and Strasse, their involvement in the series. And without you, it wouldn't be possible. It is that simple. So a big thanks. Back with Sepp Heberer, who's still defending from McLaren, still trying to catch up to Ewan Marshall. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the Porsche of the Scotsman, the Team 11 car up ahead, is a little better on the tires perhaps than Sepp Heberer's machine here. And also, though it's not a big thing for the GT machines, they do lose a little bit of downforce when getting close to the car ahead through the twisty bits. And that, of course, increases tire wear ever so slightly as well. And it could be different things. So see a little bit of a dent there to the front bumper of Sepp Heberer's BMW. And I wonder if that's had any negative effect on his top speed for this race.
It might be doing that. That could be the reason why he's not been able to pass Marshall. As we saw earlier, we were mentioning that it seems that Marshall's Porsche doesn't seem to be too bad in a straight line. But maybe it's more the fact that, as you mentioned, Herber's damage on the front of his car could be impeding his top-end speed. It doesn't seem to be affecting him too much through the corners, though. I think it's more just the fact that Ewan Marshall did pit that little bit earlier. So when they were both on track at the same time, Ewan Marshall's had more lap time on this current stint. Means his fuel is going to be that bit lighter, means that he can have a lot higher top speed.
So it does make very good sense. It's just looking through, it is once again really starting to stretch. Yet again, the drivers really settling into the rhythms here as we are getting close to a round of pit stops. That could, of course, throw a little action into it. And I also think over the last bit of races we've had a little fewer sign-ups and a little fewer drivers actually racing that we had early in the season, and I think I'd say we've been blessed with so many races that featured up towards 40 and even more drivers, that whenever we see fields that are just a little bit smaller, it seems like a big deal. But when I'm thinking back, I remember my days of commentating on Gran Turismo Sport, where often we'd see, well, less than 10 drivers on track. So for me, this is still quite festive, to be honest. And it's all, well, everything is relative. As an Austrian, wasn't he Austrian? Einstein, I think he was Austrian. But he had wiggly hair and a big beard. And he was talking about relativity.
Einstein? Maybe?
Yeah, Einstein. That's what I said. Wasn't he Austrian?
What? I think he might have been, or German. One of the two. He was from somewhere that I've never visited, so
and then
like that.
And there is the not so obvious, but still. Well, of course, he wasn't Swiss, because I would have known. The Swiss being different in a way always to Austrians and Germans. I'm not gonna say too much about it. What do I know? Been to Germany a few times. I actually have German family, and I have German blood coming into my family some generations ago, so perhaps I'm allowed. I don't know. Am I? Lord knows. Anyways, on with the racing, because it's still going on here. And I'm expecting pit stops, Edward, within the next couple of minutes here, actually.
Yeah, I think there could be some pit stops starting to come thick and fast, hopefully at least, because it will provide some on-track action. We're going to be following that. This is John Barnes. He has been gaining a little bit on this Fury Simsport driver of Neil Cooper, and I think you mentioned earlier about the livery. It's really striking, nice black and like nice shiny chrome green on the Fury Simsport car.
Yeah, you said you've got the paint pack up and running by now. So what about this?
We're going to be going through the livery rundown of the Flemish Simsport. I do love the spec map on there. It's like the Fury Simsport car, quite similar in terms of the colour scheme, but with a bit more variation between the gold and the black. Really accentuates them both. Going to be going into like the Dulux colour chart at the moment, trying to figure out what colour that is. Don't need to know what colour it is, just know that it looks pretty.
Yeah, indeed. And it's of course a nice play on the Belgian flag as well, this one. More or less with the red. Well, it's gold, not yellow, and then the black as well. Here's McClone. Still chasing Hepper. It's still very much stat quo in a gap of just around 2 seconds. The gap ahead to Ewan Marshall has also extended out to just about 2 seconds. Ryan Parkins is up ahead. He's not really managed to extend his advantage. It's 4.7 at the moment to the cars behind. Jack Ashton, 3.5 seconds to Robin Neville. So that battle for third place, don't rule out anything happening here. The Ford Silla driver, our reigning champion, still very, very much in with a shout there. And it will not take many mistakes for Robin Neville to have a bit of Ashton on his tail. Anyway,
and
we've got pit stops.
I was just about to notice, there was a car coming into the pits. That was Ewan Marshall. I was also mentioning as well that Jack Ashton, being the lone Ford, in this race, is doing a mighty fine job. Currently just outside the podium places, doing well. And this is Ewan Marshall coming in for his final stop. Did obviously come in a little bit earlier. I think came in at around about the 22-minute mark. So really quite early on in this race, he decided to make the call to come into the pits. That does mean that he will be stopping for his final time. I think will he be taking a full tank, do you reckon, at this point, or taking maybe a little under?
If it's a little under, it's a very little under, because 32 minutes, I think that's pretty close to the max that we've seen squeezed out of these cars under these conditions. So I think he's gonna have to stretch it to make it through, and we're gonna see if it works out. I think that pit stop now might actually be longer for him than his first one, and that might hurt his chances of staying out ahead. That battle he was fighting before. Welcome to Mario Yuri as well, and welcome to everyone there, by the way. Sam Baxter, Tim Matske, Martin, Porsche Sport, of course, our lovely sponsor. So nice to have you watching. I did welcome Chess, our great colleague, our, dare I say, mentor of sorts here at SRW TV. He's indeed the lad with the experience, also very much on the technical side, and without saying too much, a damn talented commentator as well.
Yeah, an absolutely lovely man is Chaz. He's helped me out just earlier, actually getting everything sorted out. So big shout outs obviously to the man Chaz Draycott, and we're just seeing a replay of what happened to Ryan Walker. Damage still on the front of his car, not helping him out too much, and as he was coming up through turn 3, the rear of his car just seemed to get away from him there.
Yeah, indeed, and look at this here. Sepp Hepperer has had a little bit of a moment too. Oh, Sepp Hepperer! That is a big off indeed, and Jordan McClone's got very close to him. And actually, when looking at it, I think Sepp Hepperer might have picked up a slowdown penalty by cutting that much of the track. And if we go back to live pictures, indeed, Jordan McClone is now ahead, up into 6th place. He's now the car chasing Ryan Parkins, but behind by 9 seconds. Marc-Antoine Thibault 6 seconds behind there. Still got Sam Bentham for company. Sam Bentham, just mentioning him, he's coming into the pits now to take his final pit stop. It's been a roller coaster ride for Bentham, but sitting in the top 10, it's a pretty strong drive. He would have been hoping for much more, given that he started on row 2 of the grid. Did a very good job in qualifying here. Speaking of drivers who were strong in qualifying, who's kept it going for the entirety of the race so far here, Robin Neville for Flemish Simsports. He would easily just be flying under the radar. Well, that's certainly not the case. And look at this here, Joop de Ligt. He has put out now a 5-second gap to teammate Johnny Verhoeven. And just where that's come from, I actually don't know. But look at Verhoeven's car. Edward, look at the right-hand side for us. Of course, that's Verhoeven's left-hand front bumper. Seems to have taken a little bit of a knock there.
It looks like the front splitter as well has really kind of been crunched inwards. Carbon fibre does not usually deform that way. It's a little bit of a quirk of iRacing's damage model, but that's almost certainly affecting his performance, especially down through the S's. It's going to be using all of the downforce available to this car. So when you're losing any amount of it, you will certainly be feeling it. And Johnny Verhoef's feeling it to the tune of about, I think, 2/10 or so a lap by the way that gap's increased.
So that is that's certainly news there for Johnny Verhoef, our championship leader. And Van Loosenhoort not here today. He was sadly taken to hospital actually earlier today. That's what I've heard. And what I've heard as well is that he's out. He's well. He's good, but he wasn't able to race. So again, best of thoughts, best of wishes, and swift recoveries to the G-Drive driver, Martin Van Loosenhoort. It sounded like some car hitting the curbs hard there on the exit of turn 5, and that was of course the car of Joop de Ligt there up ahead. Sepp Hebera seems to have lost a little time, though not a lot, to Jordan McClone, but he is ever so slightly gliding backwards. And these cars still lapping here, so Ewan Marshall in the end, Edward, might be in with quite the disadvantage after pitting so early.
Yeah, well, he's going to be coming in with obviously essentially a full fuel tanks, but a lot of times stationary in the pits because he's had to take more fuel, whereas these guys that were behind him will be able to take less fuel because they're coming into the pits with less time to go in the race. Less time stationary means that you will obviously have a quicker pit stop. I don't know by how much you will be faster. So Ewan Marshall, you can see him on board, really throwing his Porsche through all the corners, trying to get every bit of grip available to him, using it to its absolute maximum. And he knows with his clean air he's got out in front of him, this is a time where he knows that his race is going to be won or lost.
Yeah, indeed. And he also knows there that Sam Bentham has been in as well. So between these two, Ewan Marshall and Sam Bentham as well, it is a run to the line now. And it's not that much of time actually separating them. 3.7 seconds. And given that Sam Bentham was a fair bit away behind the battle that was going on before, and Ewan Marshall was a part of it, looks to me that Ewan Marshall might just be losing out on a position or two, or might even more than that, in the up and coming pit stop round. Of course, he has been in for his final stop. And now we have Marc-Antoine Thibault coming in, and I expect Neil Cooper as well. But Hebera, McClone, and some of the other drivers extending it as well as the rest of the front runners. So good fuel saving going on here. And our race leader, Joop de Ligt, now has 25 minutes of racing to go.
Yeah, I think John Barnes as well, the Quantum car, has come into the pits because they saw that the race leader, Joop de Ligt, would be coming through. So they thought it'd be quicker just to come into the pits now and not worry about losing time by letting the cars through. Good strategy from all of these guys out, because that means that they shouldn't really be losing any time when they're actually doing fast stints. Marc-Antoine is now coming out of the pits. Where is he going to come? He's just behind Sam Bentham. We saw that earlier he was, I think, just a little bit in front of Bentham, actually. So that has been a change for position. Sam Bentham's finally gotten ahead of Marc-Antoine Thibault.
Yeah, indeed. So it's worked out well there for Sam Bentham. He's put in a good couple of laps as well at the right time to gain the time needed. And this time around, it's Ryan Parkins, Jordan McClone, and Sepp Hebera coming in. And I expect a couple of other drivers as well to come in soon. But the front four still staying out. And just where are they getting out of the pits? McClone, of course, ahead as they came in as well. And is that Van Rooijk's car? Well, of course, he's out of the race, so it shows up as a white car. Here is Sepp Hebera. And there is Ryan Parkins leaving the pit lane as well. Here comes the two Manatee cars in as well for their final stops. McClone stays ahead, but the interesting thing is, where are they going to be compared to the car of Ewan Marshall, who's right there behind Jordan McClone?
Yeah, that's Jordan McClone with his Technicolor Porsche has come out in front. Brilliant strategy from him. Obviously, I think just it was partially down to Ewan Marshall taking that pit stop early on in the race, trying to get that clear air. He knew his last stint would be a bit longer, so he had to try and come into the pits earlier, and that has really hampered him. All that time spent stationary, taking that extra fuel in has cost him around about, I think, 1.5 seconds, so that's put him down a position, but he knows that his pace was good at the start of the race. That was the reason why he took that pit stop earlier, don't forget. He pitted earlier because he was being held up, so now he knows he needs to make this position done on the racetrack.
Yeah, for sure. And perhaps he had the opportunity there as McClone came out the pits with tires that could have been cooling down while in the pits. Of course, the heat in the brakes. If these cars have actual heat in the brakes model, I'm actually not sure. But anyways, cooling down of the tires when you're in the pits can certainly hurt you as you come out. And McClone seemed to be wary of that. And Ewan Marshall seemed to get a bad exit though from turn 5. And from there on, Jordan McClone has gained on him, I think. Got a good run there. And Seb Hebera with Sam Bentham on his tail, actually very close to his tail, is gaining on the cars ahead as well. So what we actually might be seeing here is a 4-way gaggle opening up the battle for 6th place.
Sam Bentham's been on a real charge. We were saying earlier that his pace was good when he moved ahead of Neil Cooper, and he seems to be going for everyone at this point. He's already gotten ahead of Marc-Antoine due to the pit stop battle going his favour, and now he is to the other Beamer of Sebastian up in front of him.
Yeah, indeed, he's caught up to Seb Hebera out of absolutely nowhere and is charging along. It'll be interesting to see his latest lap times compared to the cars in front. As you can see, of course, that's not going to help us much because the last lap for Hebera and Werrell was in the pits. But he's 0.4 quicker on his fastest lap than Ewan Marshall. He did a 16 flat on his last lap as well, so looking very good. And just as I look at our timing screen, an overtake is actually happening on track.
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were doing such a good job of reading through all of the numbers. I didn't want to cut in, but you can just see that Sam Bentham cut his way through. Sebastian Herbert kind of gave up. He kind of rescinded that position. He knew that he didn't have the pace and thought, right, I'm going to get behind you, Sam. Let's work together on this and see if we can get up to those Porsches up in front.
So patience, a good bit of racecraft there from Seb Hebera, knowing that he'll be better off in the slipstream of the BMW ahead there. If indeed he can stay there, which I think he'll do here opening indeed. It's very much about not overstraining your tires at this point of the race. When they get worn, it's very easy to just put too hard for a lap, 2 or 3, and all of a sudden you overbuilt the heat in the tires. You'll find him overheating, and all of a sudden the grip goes away. That in turn wears the tires even more, and it's going to be a downward spiral in terms of pace from there on. But Jordan McClone, 6th place for him at the moment, 9.5 seconds off of Ryan Parkins. I was about to say Jack Parkins. Ain't no Jack Parkins here. But Ryan Parkins up ahead in the Strasse Porsche Sport 911, who has flown quite a bit under the radar as well for this race. Hasn't really had many on-track battles, but he's been doing a very good job. The same can be said for Jack Ashton up ahead and Robin DeVille in places 3, 4, and 5. And then the battle behind still rolling as well here. Hebera within the second on Bentham, so he's staying within the slipstream. That's quite important, I think, for his chances of success to be maintained. We've got 19 minutes of racing to go here from Road Atlanta.
Technicolor Porsche up in front. Jordan McClone is going to be looking right behind him on the WAN cam now as we see Ewan Marshall seeing if there's any way to get close enough. We know how much pace Ewan has as they exit the chicane, go over the crest. The elevation change at this circuit is brilliant, I must say. Trying not to get too sidetracked by the circuit, but just the elevation so demanding for the drivers. And if you've got, say, something like one of my teammates has, a nice motion rig, you can really feel it going up the hill, the way the car gets compressed down and then quite light as you come over the crest here. So demanding on just not just your body, but also your mind, being able to keep up the track, everything it throws at you. Jordan's doing a brilliant job here as we follow him on the wang cam, and it's going to be up to, I think, you and Marshall just to get close enough to get into that slipstream and make a diving maneuver through the chicane.
Yeah, indeed. And you just mentioned, Edward, that the mental strain of Rotterdam seems to be one of the toughest tracks to keep concentration at, especially when racing it multi-class. I think the drivers today a little bit of an easier time in that regard, that they don't have to deal with faster or slower classes at every turn, more or less, which is often what you see in the multi-class races here. But the pace of the track, it seems to be relentless when you're in the car, and so many of the corners come in very quick succession down through the S's, that part of the track where you really don't have time to think in between the corners. You just have to know your way around, you have to remember it, and you have to have it on the muscle memory really to be able to get consistent here. But as I also mentioned earlier, it seems to be a track that's not always loved for racing on, but it's certainly a track that's really loved far and wide for just driving around on, because it is one of the most enjoyable tracks around. And look at this now, Sam Bentham within half a second of you and Marshall. And Edward, he's really found something here late race, hasn't he?
I have no idea where he's found in that pace. Maybe he's going Flintstone style, just pedaling so hard with his feet, just running after the two Porsches. Obviously, we saw that Ewan Marshall was getting the slipstream of Jordan McClone up in front. That's not really helped him at all, though, because you can see now the grunt of this BMW catching up.
Yeah, indeed, he's getting very close to the rear end of Ewan Marshall. He's going to go for it into the chicane here. A braking move on the inside. He's lost it there before, but he very much doesn't this time around. Sam Bentham takes another position. Is now up into 7th place. And just going to have a slow motion view here as he sets it in late on the brakes, very confident, and turns in super early. But you can just see how early you can turn in, keeping the car stable nonetheless. Not like before when he lost his very rear there, and that was a very good move indeed for him to get up and ahead of Ewan Marshall there. And now this next target up ahead is going to be Jordan McClone.
I'm having some slight internet connect this, so apologies for me cutting off a little bit there. But yes, we've seen Ben down the order, and he's gained. Let's have a look there. For me, he's gained 12 positions this race.
Sam Bentham. No, yeah, Jordan McClone. Yeah, he's gained quite a lot of places. Came from more or less the back of the field at the start, and he's shown that his race pace is indeed very, very strong here today. This Impact driver holding on to it at the moment. He's got a 0.7 second advantage to Sam Bentham, but the Ronin Sim Sport Academy driver and the 89 machine here in P7 at the moment, he seems to be really flying along. That last lap for Sam Bentham, a 1:15.9, 6/10 faster than Jordan McClone. He's finding pace from somewhere where I think the other drivers don't really know where to look, because he's flying along at the moment. And 15 minutes of this, 14 minutes to be exact, for Jordan McClone of hanging on to a car with such a pace advantage, I think is going to be a big ask for him.
I want to know what his secret is. Maybe he's running potentially an endurance setup for this, so his tyres are in much better state. Maybe it's just his driving style. I have no idea what he's done, but he has found absolute shed loads of pace. You can see how close he's able to get. Meanwhile, Sebastian Huber in the background is just not seeming to be able to command his BMW in the same way that Sebastian is. And I think we might be seeing another daring maneuver down the inside. Jordan McClone, is he going to go defensive? No, he isn't. He's leaving the door open, and that's going to be taken up by the BMW here, going around the outside at the chicane. Brilliant maneuver.
That's 3 times out of 3 into the chicane for Sam Bentham, taking 6th place there on Jordan McClone. We're going to have it in slow motion yet again. The scent is real, and the confidence for Sam Breakham, we could call him that because he's so good on the brakes. But Sam Bentham indeed there, taking that inside line. Jordan McClone, not really a chance, and I think he realizes that well and truly in time. And that means the Porsches are now down in 7th and 8th here. The question is, Sam Bentham here with this round of time. Ryan Parkins has lost a little bit of pace up ahead. It's now 8 seconds ahead of Bentham. And I think he's been caught up in the traffic there of Bud Boland, because he certainly lost pace on his last lap there, Ryan Parkins. If he keeps up this type of pace, well, it's going to take something absolutely special from Sam Bentham to be able to catch up the gap. That is 8 seconds at the moment here. And speaking of gaps, I just wanted to check in on the distance between Jack Ashton and Robin DeVille there in 3rd place. Of course, the battle between 3rd and 4th place cars at the moment there. And Jack Ashton at 118 on his last lap as well. Seems to have fallen off the pace ever so slightly compared to Robin DeVille's 116.3. And back here, Ewan Marshall. Look at that, he's actually gaining on Jordan McClone now. So not out of it, the Scotsman. Team 11, Sepp Herbrugh. Well, 2 seconds seems to me, though, that he might have been dislodged from the battle up ahead here. But Ewan Marshall certainly still in it.
Yeah, you can see Ewan Marshall is lovely Porsche there. Going to be seeing if there's anywhere past Jordan, though. I don't think there is. I think Jordan's just got such a good hold on the race now and has got a BMW up in front to draft off of that. I think by the end of this race, what was, I think, 12 minutes to go, I can't see anyone being able to challenge them, but then I can't see anyone really being able to challenge Jordan unless there's obviously a mistake made with the tyres getting worn as this race has been going on.
Ooh, just to speak about the mistake, Jordan McClone makes it in the... Oh, and he actually keeps it, but he's going to lose the position for sure there. Speaking of the commentator's curse, Edward, that was strong indeed. Jordan McClone, and let's have another look at it.
I can't do anything but apologize. I'm horribly sorry, Jordan. That was all my bad, not your mistake whatsoever. That was just the curse. The curse being so strong and so real, even though I should probably be more grateful that Jack's able to get back and everything's fine with his computer, because, oh my word, I can't think of a more text example of curse the commentator.
That was a big cursed moment indeed there, Jordan McClone. He got past the car of who there? Oh, that was of course just a quick send there from Sepp Herbrugh, getting the run on McClone, who's back into 9th place now. He's going to be chasing Sepp Herbrugh. He's going to be chasing Ewan Marshall, but that might just have hurt his tires a tad too much. You can just see him overshooting the 6th turn there. The banked right-hander. Oh, that's a bit of a shame there for McClone. He was looking so good, but he's certainly gaining back on Herbrugh quickly. And we'll be keeping our eyes open to see if he will be getting in to send territory quickly here. We've had a problem as well for John Barnes, the 21 car here for Quantum Racing. That's in turn 3, massively misses the apex and having to cut across and find himself on that escape road. And of course, not the worst thing that can happen, because a slowdown of a second or two, that's easily dealt with, but smashing up your car, suspension or whatever can happen if you hit the curbs too hard, or you can easily just get sent into the walls. That is, of course, a lot worse. Bentham on a 116 dead there, Ewan Marshall a 117, Herbrugh 16.7, and McClone a 16.8. So no wonder Sam Bentham caught up to that pack ahead quickly as well. He's absolutely flying. He's catching Ryan Parkins as well, who's now in the slipstream of the Quantum car ahead. And that is the car of, is it the 41 machine, or what is that? It is indeed.
Yes, I think that's one of the Quantum cars. I think that's Paul, is indeed Paul. So Paul's been having quite a good showing actually. He's ahead, just a little bit behind his teammate, but ahead of Ryan Walker, that we did mention was doing quite well in this race. But I think Ryan's pace has just started to drop off a little bit as this race has gone on. I don't think the damage has been helping him out. We can see battling now as Sebastian Herbrugh is looking behind him and seeing the Technicolor Porsche filling up his rearview mirror.
Yeah, indeed, the Simpack car here really trying to get close enough, but it's not going to be this time around. And he, I think, just settles for the exit approach. And so does Sepp Heber, and he gets a very good one indeed. And they're both trying to keep up with Ewan Marshall up ahead, who all of a sudden finds himself up there in 6th position. I'm sorry, in 7th place, but because, of course, Sam Bentham has gone past all of these three. McClone really trying for the cent here. Is just 6/10 off of Sepp Heber, with Heber 8/10 off of the car ahead. So still none of these cars really within true striking distance, although it's very much within pressure distance. Technicolor Simpact Racing, man, that's a good one. It is very much what it is. By the way, up ahead here, Joop de Ligt is lapping and lapping and lapping at an absolutely incredible pace. Well, so is his teammate. Their last 2 laps, both of them 1:15.8, with Robin DeWille on a 16.5, Jack Ashton on a 16.8, and Ryan Parkins as well on a 16.5. Then the next quick car, really fast driver at the moment, is indeed Sam Bentham there on a 16.2 indeed. But no one really able to match the pace of the Manatee cars here. And look at that, that's Neil Cooper and the Fury Porsche, finding himself a very good piece of slipstreaming kit there, and goes a little wide into the first bit of the chicane. That's going to lose him time, and that might as well lose him the toe as they exit. There's Ewan Marshall, Heber, and McClone, as well as Marc-Antoine Thibault. Is that Neil Cooper behind? No, he's a bit away back as well. We're going to hop up back with the Scotsman here, Ewan Marshall. So we're well within the final 10 minutes of racing. Matter of fact, we're getting closer to the final 5 minutes of action here. And Sam Bentham now 5 seconds ahead of these cars, so barring any type of mistakes, he's going to be out of the equation, I believe, for this fight. And it's going to be, at best, for McClone and Heber and Marshall as well, at best 7th place. Robin DeWille still with a comfortable cushion there to Jack Ashton, who has very much the same, down to Ryan Parkins in 5th place. And on the gold rankings, by the way, McClone yet again!
McClone.
So, just what happened? I think he's just carrying a little too much speed into the corner there, losing the rear end. Oh my word. He's trying to back it up.
Seems every time you go and look at the timing, Hasse.
Martin says we've run out of spare pants.
Kane, and it's Jordan McClone that just lost out, as you mentioned. It's Kane.
So that's poor luck for McClone, losing it at such a late stage. 5 minutes of racing left. Here is Ewan Marshall now defending from Sepp Heber, but it's just around a second between the two. And Sepp Heber needs to get a move on if he's get past the Scotsman in front here. Marc-Antoine Thibault finds himself up into 9th place and in a good position there ahead of Neil Cooper and then Jordan McClone. And behind him now is John Tusting. And no doubt about it, Jordan McClone is going to be gutted with that situation. It's been...
But if there's... I was just about to say, if there's one driver I do know, that's Neil Cooper. He'll be absolutely glad to be in the top 10. Fury Simsport driver is a good friend of mine, was racing with me actually at the Petit Le Mans on the weekend in a different car to this one, in the Mercedes GT3. Was doing very well in that car and is doing a rather good job in this as well.
And that's also a difficult transition, I think. No, I think that was just the warning from before of someone being off, and that was McClone. So we're not gonna pay too much attention to that. But it's difficult when you're coming from a car that has a completely different layout, like the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. It's of course front-engined, rear-wheel drive. The Porsche 911 RSR, of these being mid-engined and rear-wheel driven. And one of the few Porsche 911s to actually feature a midship engine. I think the only other exception being the 911 GT1, if I'm very much not mistaken. So, of course, all other Porsche 911s would be rear engine as well. It's a little bit of a different car to drive. Oh, as Ewan Marshall gets a little bit of a slide on as well there.
Well held by Ewan Marshall there. That's given Sebastian Herbert just a little bit of a window of opportunity, just a little bit of sign that Ewan is a little bit under pressure, feeling the stress, feeling the strain of having this big M8 filling his rearview mirrors, filling him quite largely because, as we said earlier, it's a very, very big car. You come down through the S's, you can see just how big it is on this wang cam. Look at this, like coming down through the S's, the aero push forcing him to go a little bit wide through the S's, not taking the right line is Sebastian. So it just shows as well the level of downforce you can lose when following a car.
Yeah, you could just see Seb Hebra just washing out wide ever so slightly down through the S's. And that cost him a tenth or so. And plus the momentum he was building up here as we're now within the final 2 minutes of action. That we're in the last half hour, I feel like has really flown by.
Well, I was going to say, the time is absolutely shot by. You can just see that it's starting to close now. Ewan Marshall does not have a car in front to draft off of, no car to help him. Getting close under the braking zone, no moves being made yet. They're going to be going one by one through this corner, but you can just see, a little bit too jumpy over the curbs goes Sebastian Herbert, not getting such a good run, but still close enough to get the slipstream, claw all that time back as we come now round the final corner. I think we might only have a couple more laps to go and a couple more chances for Sebastian Herbert to take seventh place, sorry.
Indeed, still time to get the run here, as I think Ewan Marshall might have gone a little too narrowly into turn 3 there, and in turn that might open the door for Hebera. But through the S's, we've seen his BMW suffer a little bit, and by the way, they're having, I think that's Joop de Ligt coming up to overtake these cars with a lap as well by now, so that's another thing they'll have to pay attention to, that Joop de Ligt also has to be mindful of. Welcome to Flaero as well, cheering on the Porsches in the race. And it has been nice to see Porsche getting up where they belong. Oh, and Hebra going wide on the exit there of the hairpin. And Edward, that might just seal the battle.
That could do, but you can see the leader of this race, Joop de Ligt, up in front, I think. And that if Joop de Ligt wants to get ahead of Ewan Marshall, that's going to slow Ewan Marshall up and drag him right back into this fight. But I think we will be seeing Joop de Ligt start, I think, be the final lap of this race.
This is very well going to be the final lap indeed, as we are 20 seconds or so away from the checkered flag. So it's for sure going to be the white flag for this time around. And I think Seb Hebra has just thrown in the towel on this time around. And saying that he's still pushing. I don't know how much. Of course, he's going to be wanting to pass Ewan Marshall. But how much time is Marshall going to concede, giving the position to the race leader? Or is Joop de Ligt just going to be content? He knows this is the final lap. He's under no bit of pressure whatsoever. He doesn't necessarily have to overtake the Porsche. That could really play into the hands of Seb Hebra. And by the way, Seb Hebra, let's just face it, he will have to pull off a magical bit of a final lap here. I think we can safely say by now there is no catching up. And we can follow our race leader, Joop de Ligt, home for Manatee Racing. And Manatee has driven a textbook race today. If we had an issue late here for Ryan Walker, we're just going to check it in the Nomad Ferrari. I'm afraid that's on the exit of... Oh, that's entering turn 5. That's the first time we've seen that kind of incident today here, as Joop de Ligt takes the checkered flag here. Round 8 victory at Road Atlanta for Manatee Racing, and his teammate Johnny Verhoeven strengthens his grasp on the overall standings of the 7th season of SRW GT Pro action. And then here on the straight, on the way home to 3rd place, is Robin Deville for Flemish Sim Sports. And it's been one of several drivers flying under the radar, so to say, today. He hasn't really been involved in a whole lot, but he's kept himself and his car out of trouble. And in itself, that is not an easy feat here at Road Atlanta. Something that we've seen quite obviously for the race today. But he comes home for a podium place. Third place it is for Flemish Sim Sports. A very strong performance indeed. And close in pursuit, Jack Ashton for Fortzilla in fourth. Here comes Ryan Parkins, another top 5 place for Strasse Porsche Sport. Another top 5 place for Parkins in the end as well. A strong drive from him. It could have been for Sam Bentham in 6th, but it wasn't to be due to poor luck. He does make it well into the top 10. I think he is a little bit disappointed in the end there. Ewan Marshall, Seb Habera has indeed crossed the line already, which is why I got a little confused about things there. And that seems that we've actually had the entire... yeah, everyone's crossed the line.
I think that's everyone. Yeah, I think Ewan Marshall was, I think, one of the only few cars that wasn't lapped by our race leader, Joop de Ligt, which just shows the dominating race that the Manzi Racing team was able to put on. The fact that I think every car was lapped up to 7th place, so only the top 7 finished on the lead lap. I want to shine another light as well on Ryan Parkins, the top-rated gold driver, 5th place overall. Brilliant race from him. He did fly a little bit under the radar, but that's what you want to be doing at a track like this, where action and drama is aplenty.
Very much so, Edward. Here is the race results on the screen yet again. Joop de Ligt, our race winner, 6.3 seconds ahead of teammate Johnny Verhoef, who is looking very good with the overall standings by now. Robin DeVille, 3rd for Flemish, in front of Jack Ashton, Ryan Parkins, Sam Bentham in 6th there. Then Ewan Marshall, Seb Hebera, Marc-Antoine Thibault, and Neil Cooper in the number 3 Porsche 911 for Fury Sim Sports, rounding off the top 10. Then Jordan McClone, John Tusting, John Barnes, Paul Gosling, Ryan Walker, Bud Boland, Pim Bao, and the retiring Martin van Rooijwijk as well for Simpac. That completes, well, all of it in the end. But a good race. Some controversial moments, but not too much of it nonetheless, bar that lap 1 start of lap 2 incident in the end. That came back to haunt some drivers for a long time indeed. But a very good race, especially for Manatee Racing, who's certainly done well. By now we'll be awaiting a couple of the drivers to make their way to the interview room, as we hope to be able to catch a word or two with our podium finishes for tonight. And can I just say already by now, thank you so much for watching along as well. Do appreciate all your support, and keep it coming.
Yeah, certainly do. It's been, well, a brilliant evening's racing, Hasse. This might be my first time actually doing a commentating job with the boys here at Simracersworld TV. Brilliant show you guys put on, by the way. I do watch almost every single stream that I get a chance to watch, of course. So I've been hearing your dulcet tones in my ears for the past few months at the very least, and it's been good to see as well all of the drivers out on track providing some good racing. Obviously there are a few moments, as you mentioned, Marc-Antoine Thibault getting a bit of, I think, netcode incident as well with Ewan Marshall, I think, that put him down the order. But I just noticed he did quite a good recovery drive back up to 9th place, and Ewan Marshall only finished in 7th, only a couple of places in front of him in the end.
Yeah, indeed. That battle there for 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th place, 9th place as well, that's been going on for so long. That went on more or less from green to checkered.
Green to checkered, yeah, and, exactly.
That was absolutely brilliant to see. And you know what, Luke, Porsche Sport, feel free to drop in the booth if no one's else going to. We'd like someone to talk to in the end. And if nothing else, a word with you guys wouldn't be out of place.
Someone? I've just seen someone in the interview room. If you want to bring them in, Hasse.
I would certainly love to, and that's Ryan Parkins, not to be mistaken with Carl Sharkey, by the way.
He's not here this week.
Welcome to the booth. Top 5 finish, another top 5 finish for you and for the team for Porsche Sport Strasse, or Strasse Porsche Sport it is. Congratulations on that, and a very strong race, flying under the radar ever so slightly, and staying clear of the worst of battles and accidents. How did the car feel out there on track for you today?
Felt great. It felt really good. I was I've done such little practice. I was really worried about the tyres. At the first stops, I was saving a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have done that because by the time I come out, it's like 90% on the front left, which is loads. But because I didn't do any proper running, I'm actually really, really happy with my top 5. It's really good. Compared to Suzuka 2 weeks ago, I put a lot of effort in and got second. But yeah, I think Petit Le Mans for everyone else in the BMWs, everyone put a lot of effort into that. So I'm really happy with the result.
Makes a very good bit of sense to me because I would expect a lot of the field to have done Petit Le Mans this weekend and to be very dialed in, not only on the track but also with the car they've been driving. And did you drive Petit Le Mans this weekend?
No, I was actually Karun Chandok's karting carnival instead in the rain.
Oh, that sounds rather interesting as well. And of course, when something happens in real life, it's often also worth taking notice at that it's actually real life racing and not just in the simulator. That sounds great though. While we have you in the booth, Ryan, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or a thanks to?
Just to Simracersworld, very helpful. Got Luke Holroyd in Discord talking me through what's going on, and everyone turning up. Again, people haven't turned up. Don't know why, but it's great. I'll take the points. But yeah, thank you everyone that helps out. Thank you for the stream, the broadcast, and yeah, everyone's really nice and really helpful in this community. It's really good fun. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Cheers to you as well, and always a pleasure having you on. And this time, getting your name and identity right on my part as well. I think that's a pretty good place to start. But I hope to see you again and speak to you again soon after the next race.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
So that was the good old Ryan Parkins, our 5th place finisher. I'm gonna bring in Joop de Ligt, our race winner today. Joop, it seemed to be a 2-up battle between you and your teammate Johnny up ahead. Was that the feeling you had as well out there today?
Hi guys. Yeah, I guess so. We had a pretty clear understanding, the two of us, that we weren't gonna make a fool out of ourselves and not do anything silly. So yeah, that was about it, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. I just got pulled out of it by some chat going on.
Yeah,
in chat.
same here. I was actually just talking to Seb in the waiting room, and then I was suddenly here, so I'm switching focus, but I'm here.
Sorry, yeah, so am I, by the way. And speaking of that, making a fool of yourself after having made such an I'm not saying that you did. Hey, after all, you did win the race, but you also did have a couple of situations where you actually went to some pretty close wheel-to-wheel racing with Johnny there at the chicane and all the way down the start-finish straight into turn 1, up through the corner, up to turn 3. Was that plan ahead as well to give us a bit of action to look at?
No, it wasn't anything like that. No, I was, I did make a pretty big mistake into the chicane, but fortunately I had what's called a SimuCube save, and I just let go of the wheel and it corrects itself. So I didn't spin there, and then Johnny got past me, and I just we stayed together for a bit. I was saving some fuel and just, trying not to get any off tracks for the bonus points. But yeah, I did get an off track eventually, and then we were talking like, well, let's not take it too easy now. And yeah, I tried to push and get by him, which I did in the end. But it was fairly close because he wasn't giving me much room. I had some room, probably more than with a non-teammate, but yeah, not all the room in the world to play with there. But it was fun. It was good fun.
Indeed, and it seems now that Johnny's in such a good position in the overall standings that the championship looks to be going the way of Manatee Racing, of your team, your teammate at least. How does that make you feel coming into the last couple of rounds here of the SRW GT Pro?
Well, obviously, I mean, we have to be honest. There are some pretty quality guys missing right now who have chosen to not continue in the season anymore. So it does look like it's pretty much a 2-horse race now, which I mean, that's the way it is, and you know, Johnny and I have decided to just keep going, see the season out, and hopefully have a good battle amongst ourselves. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try everything to take that championship from him. It's a tall order. I have a very big. He has a big lead on me, but I'm definitely gonna try and get back ahead of him. Maybe force him in a couple of mistakes here and there, and then yeah, who knows what could happen. There's still 3 races to go, so.
Indeed, we're going to be looking forward to the battling. We're going to be looking forward to the action. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having you in the booth. Thanks for joining us. And before we let you off the hook, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to, or anything of that style?
For sure. I mean, obviously, you know, like the regulars, everyone in the team, and our sponsors, and you guys for the broadcast again. But in particular, I actually want to shout out my buddy Johnny. He's going through a tough time right now at home. It's not easy for him, and you know, despite all that, he took some hours out of his day to practice with me and come up to the race here with me, and he did a great job. Got a good P2, so I hope we can you know, keep doing that together.
Oh, that's great to hear. Best of luck for Johnny as well. Thanks for joining us, Job, and hope to see you again here in the booth as well after the next race.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. See ya.
Cheers. That was race winner Job de Ligt. We've got a final interviewee up tonight. It is co-organizer and top 10 finisher for tonight, Seb Hebra, who's going to have a word with Edward May.
Hello, Seb. That was a good race from your perspective. We saw you fighting your way up through the field, and well, to come home in P8, it seems you had just some little moments where your car wasn't quite doing what it wanted to do. How was the race from your perspective, though?
Yeah, it was. Can you hear me?
Yep, we certainly can.
Okay, my Discord just showed some warnings. It was a really, how do you say, exhausting race. I had a good scrap with Ewan Marshall and Mark Thibault. It was really fun, and yeah, I just couldn't get Ewan. It was just too close, and I had one moment in the S's where I barely held onto the car. I nearly put it in the wall. I don't know if you saw it.
we were following you towards the last stage of the race, and it did seem that when you were following Ewan up in front, just the aero push meant that your car was washing out quite a lot through the downhill S's, and we could imagine in your car, in the car, it was much more stressful than it seemed for us watching the outboard shot. And just another note as well, you mentioned that it was quite exhausting. We were talking earlier, actually, me and Hasse, about how this track saps not only just your physical energy, but also just your mental energy. Is that something that you found in this race?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. Yeah, you probably saw in the last few laps. I made some mistakes, which in the end caused Job to lap me. So yeah, that was the end to my aspirations to catch Ewan. It is both physically and mentally exhausting, this track. I don't know what it is about Road Atlanta, but it's fun but exhausting.
It certainly is, and it's fun to watch as well. I've had a little bit look at the standings as well, and I've noticed that you are currently in 8th place in the standings. Do you think you have a chance to potentially creep your way up with some more good results that you've been showing as of recently, Sebastian?
Well, I'm not only 8th overall, I'm P2 in goal. So Ryan Parkins is right in front of me. He's P1 in gold, and we just noticed he is 55 points in front of me. And we still have 3 races left, so the gold championship is still open, and I will try to get it.
Well, we certainly hope you can take that fight down to the end. And if I'm not going to be commentating, I'm certainly going to be watching from the sideline, Sebastian. And I'll have a look. You've got some drivers close behind you, though, that will be certainly having a few things to say about that if they want to also take the gold championship.
Yeah, that's good competition. Good competition.
Good competition it is always. And just before we say goodbye, is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, all the drivers that are keep turning up for the races. I don't know, you might have noticed the field of drivers has shrunken a little bit. I don't know why exactly, and if there's any driver listening that is in the Pro League and didn't race in the last few races, you are still welcome. Just turn up for the races. So thank you to all the drivers who did show up. Thank you again to Ian and to you guys for making this all happening and for helping me organizing it. And it's been a blast so far.
No, so hopefully
3 races left.
Hopefully the lack of attendance isn't anything to worry about. I think a lot of the drivers might just be tired of driving a lot around Road Atlanta if they were doing the Petite Le Mans. I'm sure they'll be back in greater numbers in the next few races. So thank you very much, Seb.
Thank you, guys.
So that was Edward May having a word with Seb Hebra, currently setting second in the gold driver standings. Interesting indeed to see that battle unfolding towards the end of the season. Now, I think it's that time of the evening where it's time for us to conclude the broadcast. But from me, Hasse Rømer, from Edward May tonight in the booth, it has been a very greatest of pleasures having you along for the ride. If you want to see more of Simracersworld TV, do remember to subscribe. And if you really liked what you saw tonight, do give us a like as well on the video. And if you want to see more, and if you want to stay noted, hit the bell icon for those notifications. And with that said, I think all that remains to be said is we hope to be able to have Jack Werrell commentating on the SRW GT Evo series tomorrow night alongside Peter Mackay. We will be back on Sunday with me in the booth for, I guess I'm not going to be behind the wheel is a little bit bad an analogy to say when you're not driving. Anyway, I'm going to be broadcasting another race from Road Atlanta from the Sunday GT3 World League, and lots of more good stuff to come, as well as the SRW NASCAR series. It's going to be one to look out for as well. But from us in the booth, it has been a pleasure. Take care, have fun, and see you until next time.